Hi, and welcome to the End of Life Journey and Beyond, the Sands of Time. My name is Lisa Strahs-Lorenc, and I'm a bereavement specialist. Hello, Susan. Good to see you as always.
Hello, Lisa. It's so great to see you today. I'm Susan Capurso, End of Life Doula and Legacy Specialist. And today we're providing you some good information about the different roles that we play in our loved one's life. And we'll be discussing both. We're going to begin with before a person passes, your loved one passes, and then we're going to carry that through, and Lisa's going to dive more into after you've lost your loved one. So there are many roles we play before and after. But, end of life care, it transcends beyond a person's medical needs, right? We know that. Addressing their physical needs, their spiritual needs, their emotional needs, all of this is really essential. And there are doulas out there like me, and there's the hospice team, of course, and there's nurses and aides and so many more people that help. But today we're going to pinpoint the roles that family members need to take on. And there's many of them. The goal is really, we want to help keep your loved one as comfortable as possible in a tender and a gentle and loving way. So the standard roles are the people in your life. Okay, so you have the parents, you have the children, you have the spouse of the person passing or grandchildren. You could be a friend, you could be a niece or a nephew, an aunt or an uncle, right? There are so many roles there. But today we're talking about the invisible roles, the roles that nobody teaches us about, the roles and possibly roles that you've never had to play before in your life. But these are really important, as this is a really, really essential time to play these roles. So, as a mom, which both you, Lisa, and I are both moms, everyone knows the multiple roles that we've played along throughout the years. Our closets are filled with many hats, right? So we have to be a loving mom, but we have to be the disciplinarian. We have to be a chauffeur. We have to be a cook. We have to be a housekeeper, a teacher, a doctor, and so many other roles that we play. But we learn them along the way, and we're able to jump into each one of them as they're needed and when necessary. But during end of life, this is the most sacred milestone of all. And people tend to shut down in fear, and they don't know what to do. So it is the time to step up, to be there, to support and guide your loved one to the best of your ability, and step into as many roles as you can to assist them in crossing this bridge into the next journey. So, Lisa, let's talk about
I'd love some personal stories, okay? Because personal stories make people understand that we're not just talking professionally. We both have been through, these situations. So for me, it was advocate. I think that was such an important role that I played in my husband's end of life. He needed somebody who would advocate for him, who would ask questions properly. He didn't want to know certain things, but he also needed information. And I was there to do that for him. And that's something you don't learn. You just sort of fall into it. It's like a natural thing that you realize you're protecting somebody. You want the best for them, even in the best that you could do within these circumstances. So I know advocate was really important for me with him.
It really is. And that's one of the roles that I wanted to talk about today. So you jumped into that right away. I do want to stress a point, though, and something that I really wasn't that privy to. But do you know there's a difference between a caregiver and a caretaker?
Yes.
Do you know that?
Yes, I do.
Many people don't, because years ago, I always thought that they were one and the same term. Okay, but they're really not. So your caregiver is more personal and more empathetic, and they provide the support of a personal care plan and daily tasks and activities, and of course support, but they're non-medical. And they do things like preparing meals, maybe running errands, being that companion, and being that support system, and that companionship that a person needs. But a caretaker is something a little bit differently. So I think of, when I think of what a caretaker encompasses, it reminds me of maybe a paid person, right? Are you okay? Did you lose
Yeah,
something in
I
Lisa?
did. I did.
You okay?
My PC seems like it's, I'm just going to put us on stop video for a second. You keep talking. I apologize. I want to make sure that I don't lose my power. That's all.
Okay, no problem.
Sorry.
But so a caretaker is like somebody who helps with transportation, who helps with their finances, who helps make sure the bills are being paid. They do provide company and maybe some, maybe some food preparation, but they also help with dressing and bathing and other hygiene and tracking maybe vitals or medications and things like that. So it's a little bit different of a role. And yet I know many people encompass both of those things, at one time.
I always think of a caregiver as somebody a little bit more personal, as far as somebody
Yeah.
who's related maybe, or a friend, or somebody who really knows a sense of the family, as opposed to the caretaker who's, sort of, it's a job or something.
Right.
Not that they don't do a good job, but it's something, a different role. So.
Right. So you have those two roles. You mentioned advocate. What about an organizer?
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to have some organizing skills, maybe help clean out a closet, help get some things done, because when the space is more organized, even their bedroom, that's where they'll be spending more and more hours, right? And to have that beautiful space surrounding them means all the difference. It's like a weight lifted off your shoulder. I've been into many people's houses, clients' houses, and just friendly people that I know, and their space is very cluttered. And it can be really overwhelming, because in the person that's sick and can't do things, it makes them think that things just aren't buttoned up, so to speak. And I have so many things to do. I need to get this done and get this done. So you're really helping tremendously with being an organizer in their lives, right?
Yeah.
Listener.
Absolutely.
Listener is a really special quality. It's a special trait that not everybody possesses. And it's really, really important during a person's last chapter to be able to be honest and talk, and without judgment and without even response sometimes, right?
Yeah, but you also have to respect that person, and everybody's very different.
Mm.
And so some people are angry and don't want to talk, and some other people are just overwhelmed, but they are a little, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything, maybe I should. So you have to really know that person and help them be who they are, and obviously give them, the safe space, as you said, to be who they are. My husband was angry.
Right.
He was angry from the start. He was angry from the beginning, didn't want to know about the diagnosis, didn't want to know about the disease, didn't want to know anything, really. And, pancreatic cancer it's fatal.
Right.
And so I did all the research, and I did all the advocacy, and I dragged him here and there and stuff. And I listened to him when he said enough. We've done enough, and
Right.
so, and then of course, each of the roles, my children and friends and stuff had different roles for him to play. And it's
Right.
very important to help him go through his journey. And same thing with my mom, by the way. My mom was in the hospital for 7.5 months. And it was a long road. I couldn't seem to get her out of the hospital. She didn't recover from a surgery. And as I visited her, I tried to figure out what would help her at least be more comfortable. I actually got someone in there who did image therapy, so that all her pain and her anguish and stuff would at least be a little less. And this.
So you make a good point, though. Okay, as we're talking about roles, so there are roles that we have to do outreach, and look for other people to take on certain roles, because you can't do everything. And I know many families who have one person by their side and think that they can do it all, but that's not always the case. You're not being your best if you can't designate another family member or a friend. Another role is just being a physical presence. And that's really an important role, because sometimes it just helps to feel comforted, right? To know that you're around and know that you're there.
Yes.
So, I mean, that's pretty big. And what about the family communicator?
Mhm.
Right, Lisa?
Yep. I didn't have
You
brothers
need
and
to be
sisters, so
that.
everything seemed to be on me. But I know lots of people who have all kinds of issues with communicating and issues, family issues. And of course, this kind of situation, makes it even 10 times bigger and more challenging.
Right. And in order for the family to feel a little less fear and anxiety along the way, if you can possibly learn how to be a good communicator, you'll keep everybody calm and everybody on the same page, and you can designate other roles so it doesn't have to fall on your shoulders. Liaison, that's a role that most everybody who's helping somebody at the end of life takes on. I know in my role as a doula, as a friend, as a companion, as a hospice volunteer, I'm a liaison. I'm the eyes and ears to tell that hospice team about what's going on and what's happening, to be able to talk to the nurse that comes in and let her know things that are going on. So being a liaison is not just family members, it's other key important roles that are in your person's life.
Yeah.
And you also want to play your own role. Your own role might be the daughter or the son or the granddaughter or a parent. I mean, you want to play, and that's not playing, that's your real role. Who
Right.
you are, right? And that's really important to interject. And then there's being the mother or the father, even when you're not.
Yeah.
Okay, because they may need help and you may need to talk to them about it's time to eat softer foods because they're having a little bit of a hard time swallowing, and help them with applesauce and pudding and all these things, and kind of make not a joke, but bring some light into that situation.
Yes.
Right? And try and release some of the negativity. That's all.
Yes.
And the last thing I thought of is a director's role, right? We'd all like to be a director in the upcoming Elvis movie. I would have liked to be the director in that. But a director takes charge, makes decisions that need to be made. And that can, the scope of that is huge. So it could be with more personal things. It could be dealing with the mailman or landscapers or deliveries or ordering things online, or, you have to be the director and direct when your person can have visitation and, friends coming, and maybe keep that calendar and designate 2 or 3 other people in roles that they can come to relieve you. To relieve you, not relieve you,
Yes.
to relieve you.
Yes. So important. It's
so you're not so overwhelmed.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. Taking care of the caregivers, so important. I joined a group for caregivers, and I'm telling you, it really got me through the year.
Wow. Nice.
And at least you could yell and scream and do what you feel, and people understood. And you didn't have to apologize or explain something.
And that's an important point, Lisa, that if you are savvy online and you can go into whatever social media outlet that you use, look for some caregiving groups and vent a little and get some support virtually if you don't have anybody directly. But also, Lisa and I, we've come across many groups on Long Island that are constantly offering workshops. So I know that they do it everywhere. If I see it here on Long Island a lot, webinars, workshops, how to care for the caregiver, how to nurture you.
Yes.
So ask people, ask your church if you have one. But there are many resources available for that kind of thing as well, right?
Absolutely.
So we've mentioned a lot of different roles that you play, that everyone plays along the way. But now let's transition a little bit into when your loved one does pass. So now there's many roles that Lisa is going to mention now
I want to
on what
start.
happens then.
Yeah, so I want to start with the memorial service that I went to yesterday. Okay. It was a coworker and a dear friend whose brother had died, 53 years old. So there's a sister involved, there's a mother involved, there's her, there's nieces, there's her daughter, there's a lot of people involved. I didn't have brothers and sisters, so there was nobody to share anything with. But it seems from my friends that somebody ends up taking the role of sort of coordinator or event planner or whatever. And my friend is that person. So she does that. And then you have everybody else saying, well, why don't you do this? And why don't you do that? And you have everybody sort of, first of all, everybody's grieving differently. This is very important. You have to really understand that everybody goes through their own journey. And so whatever you're feeling doesn't mean that the other person's feeling the same thing at the same time or anything. And so that's very important. You talk about communication, this is really big. Really big. And then you got the control people, well, I would have done it this way, or why didn't you, and there's a lot going on, because not only are they feeling badly and mourning and all, but now they're feeling like it's their responsibility and why are you doing it this way? And so you have all that. Then you also have families that I understand don't even talk to each other. So now you might have that person who really bound the family together, and now that person's gone. So now you have total dysfunction because nobody's communicating with anybody. So I'm just going to say that everybody's in a heightened atmosphere here, a heightened emotional atmosphere. And I think we all, please take step backs and try and understand that that person, however all of you are mourning, that person meant a lot to all of us. Okay. And so it's not like I meant more to me or was better than me or whatever it is. There's no comparisons here. It's that you as a family need to try and communicate what maybe each of you can do. I'm really good at this, or I love doing this, or whatever it is, and work together. So she did the planning and she did an amazing job. But the sister did a beautiful video. It was really nice, put it to music, and that was lovely. And everybody came up and did a beautiful eulogy, including the son, the 17-year-old son with his mother. It was very touching. And there were bagpipes, and there was a lot of thought involved with this. But again, each person and the role that each person played was different. And you have to accept that everybody is doing the best they can. You just have to be really understanding of that. And again, with all the heightened emotions, you get angry about this, and it's so silly, it's nothing. And yet it seems like a big deal at the time. So number one, communication. Number two, an empathetic understanding of all of us going through this horrible time, difficult time. We're all feeling the loss, and we all need to just understand and love each other. Really, just love each other.
That was great, Lisa. It makes a lot of sense. And I just wanted to add this, that so maybe you are the good event planner in the family. Maybe you are the good director. Okay. So take that and think about the other family members, right? And people get a little crazy too, because they're suffering with all kinds of emotions like guilt, and there's a whole bundle of things going on within each person. So if you are that one kind of leader and director, then designate different roles for different people. Like she asked the creative one to build her slideshow.
Right.
And that's great, because now she's not focused on doing other things and giving her input, because she's focused on her project at hand.
Yes, yes.
So maybe you can find something, maybe for the nephew or the son or the grandson. Maybe you can ask them if they could come by the house, maybe, and just help clean up or put the garbage out. Or, there are so many different roles that can happen. But if you are the director and the leader, maybe think about how you can designate responsibilities to other people.
Yeah, I think what's really important, that everybody wants to feel that they're doing something. in their own way.
Exactly.
And they should do as much as they can and not feel guilty that they're not doing more. And so everybody has to communicate, well, I'm really good at this, or I can do this. There were passages that were read that were really lovely. There was a soloist that came up, so things that would make it meaningful to everyone. And then she asked a friend to do a luncheon afterwards, and the friend was, more than happy to have it at her house. And then ongoing, trying to figure out how to support
After the funeral, that's what I was going to say next. So now there are many different roles people play, right? After the service.
Yes. So you have decisions to make about that. And then, after luncheon and after everything's over and after people are gone, now you have the real period of mourning. Okay. You hear all the time the person who's left saying, I feel so guilty that I was having fun. There's all these things in people's heads. And so we need to support each other, especially family members, even telling them, hey, I'm going through really difficult, I can't even get up this morning, or whatever it is that you feel. And if you can have that empathy for people, and if you can at least reach out to them in your own way, then they don't feel like they're the only ones who feel this way, and of course, unresolved anger, unresolved guilt. I should have said this. Why didn't I do this? All that stuff comes out afterwards, unfortunately, which is why we talk all the time about really living fully and appreciating fully.
Exactly. And, and when you touched on something that made me think, you might be in this grieving the worst out of everybody, the worst out of the group. And, you're finding just, daily tasks hard to manage because of your grief and because of your loss. But sometimes trying to, focus and step outside of that box to help somebody else who's going through that grief too will help you.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
Hmm.
Yeah. It is a difficult, involved process. Emotions are all over the place. And again, we all know, as people who grieve, we all know that other people come in and say, well, it's been a year. Well, it's been, we've talked about this. But in the family itself, we're not prepared for the fact that everybody's going to be a little different. Some people just don't want to talk about it. They don't want to even acknowledge it. And others are angry, and others are sad, and others are, depressed, trying to figure out how to move on. So there really needs to be not only the communication, but an empathy and an understanding for our family. And again, sometimes it just splits family, and other times it actually brings family members together because they go through a shared grief.
I thought of the role of maybe somebody's an entertainer in the family who hosts parties and gatherings, and we always do it at her house, and we have holidays at her house or whatever. Well, maybe that person love apparently entertaining and having everybody there. So maybe that person can invite everybody to her home, maybe weeks later, a month later, and it could be a potluck and everybody brings something, but just to bring the family together as a unit, because that helps the grieving process, I believe, tremendously, versus separating and feeling alone.
That's a great idea. And, we did speak about celebrations of life, memorial kind of celebrations. And when families do come together, and even if it could be a year from the time, it just is a really nice remembrance, and it brings people into one space and into that one feeling of, hey, these are all the wonderful memories that I had, and the stories and all that, makes people feel really comforted.
Right. So, I hope this helped a little bit today, to know that there are many roles that we can take on before and after, and how it's really important to try and designate those roles to other people so you don't do it all yourself.
Yes.
And even after loss, right? You don't want to take that all on yourself, right?
And the communication, both before and after, so important. Of all the times where family needs to really come together, this is it. And so that extra work involved in communicating is just urgent.
And this is the reason that I recently certified in the family grief ceremony, because that's exactly what that ceremony is. It's a 2-hour gathering in the safe space of your home with only immediate family members, maybe 10 to 12 max. And it builds a foundation over 2 hours. I bring in over 20 different tools that we go from one to the other. And it starts that foundation to heal together as a unit versus being so alone and at home and feeling like you're grieving by yourself. So things like that, all of that helps. Anything that you employ that, bring into the family, it will help everybody's process grow a little bit lighter as time moves on.
And I want to mention one more thing, because I did have it yesterday. So Susan makes a beautiful healing garden, and they're stones. They're Long Island stones, and they have beautiful, phrases on them and things to do. And each day sort of meditating on that stone and all. And I gave it to my friend. And it was just so beautiful for her. And it meant so much to her. Reading each stone and seeing what, she was going to do really gave her, a purpose. It gave her something. It was very meaningful, Susan, and it was very beautiful. So thank you for doing that important work.
Well, thank you for mentioning that, Lisa. That's fulfilling. I love hearing those words. I love hearing those words, because this is only a little piece of my business, yes. But I do that for that specific reason, to help somebody learn how to be still, breathe, and reflect on the messages that are on the stones. So thank you for sharing that. Sure. And Lisa, today, I want you to talk a little bit about your workshops and your grief services.
Sure. Well, so as a bereavement specialist, I tell people all the time that I live with death my whole life, and I have. And so I really understand, and I don't need people to feel sorry for me. I feel really good about appreciating life and celebrating life. And that's what I help other people do. So I respect people's journeys. I help them with the process. I get them where they are, and I help them with living beyond, death. So I do that through individual work. I also will be doing a really nice workshop for an organization called COPE. And that's going to be in October. I'll announce it many times. And it's about the dreaded holidays. So everybody dreads the holidays after the loss. And I have a really positive activity to do. It's rethinking the holidays after loss. It's a really nice activity. And I'll be doing it October 25th. So I really enjoy that. And then I have 2 books, both books about pancreatic cancer, because the money goes towards pancreatic cancer research, the Les Garten Foundation. And one is about the disease, 20 families who have experienced it together. And then the second one was 10 years later, and all of us and our lives afterwards, and the process of the years go by. So both of those are online, and you can contact me about both of those. And
wonderful. And our information's all above. So reach out to us with any questions. And we both have a background, and presently lots of resources. I wanted to mention that too. I mean, I myself, I'm on the National Aging in Place Council here, the New York, Long Island chapter. So we're filled with vetted and background check professionals and their resources. So anything that you do need, you can reach out to me, and we'll find somebody to help you with whatever it is that you need.
Yes. And
Lisa has your experience is amazing in working with so many people in the nonprofit realm.
World. Yeah. And at this point, we have 54 videos. And just for people to go in, either subscribe so that they see the videos as they come out, or just find the videos that resonate. We've had speakers before that really give very good information. And then, of course, all our discussions have been personal and professional. And I love that about us, that we've been able to put our own stories so people understand we've been there, we know this, but that we also have professional backgrounds in.
Yeah, and we'd love you to like our page, but please share it, with a friend who may need it most. So, and follow our page so you get our dings with our new videos. Yes. So thank you very much for coming today. I think we covered everything, Lisa.
Yep, I think so too. Always
Okay,
great
great.
talking with you and talking about these important topics, Susan. Good, just good work.
Absolutely.
All
Thank
right,
you,
until
Lisa, for
next time.
everything. And we'll see you next week.
Sounds good. Take care. Bye.
Bye.